Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's watch.
We married with the intention of forever, literally was an eternal covenant. And I feel like that he's like, well, I'm just not interested. You can stick around if you want. But I'm like, but why would I want to do that eternally? Be with somebody who...
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, or maybe I did, that he's not just asking to stay married until she dies. He's asking, well, you could stay here for eternity. And I'm guessing that on the planet where they're gods, there's no Tinder. So if she were to leave him at that point, there wouldn't be other dudes with pecs and abs. I don't know. I don't know.
Like, done. Like, you can stick around and you can come visit me and Robin and the kids if you want, but we're never going to have a marriage relationship anymore. So I feel like I've always had a pretty good relationship with Robin, and I freaking love her kids. I have every intention to still keep a good relationship with those kids,
All right, well, that sounds like she has turned that corner. He's pushed her to that point where, the way she's talking, it's like divorce is going to happen.
That works for what you're looking for.
I don't like that he's putting all this on me. And he's also not owning that he just doesn't have the interest. He said it to me in private, but he's still not saying it here.
Yeah, it's eerie, the systematic nature of Kody provoking the sister wives to leave him in succession. He first started with Christine. She's the easiest to provoke to do that. Goes to Janelle. She's a distant second, but she would be the next easiest compared to Mary especially. And now it's on to Mary. And it's, when I saw him a couple, 2 or 3 seasons ago doing this with Christine, it raised the question that I wonder if I said on camera, that is this going to happen with all the sister wives? Or all the sister wives except for Robin? I don't know. It seemed like not possible. Also, I'll say that what she's referring to is that away from the camera, he said that he doesn't love her and never did, and is basically saying that it's over, but not saying it's over. It's like he did this, he's doing this, he's still doing it with Janelle because it's not officially over, but he's saying everything except for, I want to leave you. And he, according to Mary, who I believe, she says that she's like, well, we're a public couple. We're on a reality TV show. I think we should, say this on camera, or we should tweet about it or whatever. And he said, no, I don't want, let's not do that. And I'm guessing what he was hoping was that she would just be like a friend the way she's been, but she would actually be officially a friend in their marriage. Which is funny to say because it's like it's basically been that way the whole time. But anyway, not the whole time, but the last few years, or longer actually. But she, what I think he was hoping for would be that on publicly he was still a polygamist and was still with Mary and Robin, but Mary would only come around occasionally, and there would be no romantic expectations. And privately, between Mary and Robin and Kody, the three of them knew that Mary and Kody were spiritually divorced or something. I don't know. And it makes you wonder, why would he want that? Well, I would wonder if he saw Mary as, like with Janelle, if he proposed this to her, to Janelle, or started to treat Janelle the way he treats Mary, Janelle would start to get upset because she, although has said that she's okay not being the primary wife, she wants intimacy, she wants love, and without that, why be married? So, whereas Mary apparently is, at least on the surface, okay with that, because if I get the impression that if Kody hadn't said what he said, that I never loved you, or the things that he was saying at the dinner that wasn't filmed, that Mary would have just stuck with it. Not happy about it and constantly pining, but not motivated to leave. She apparently was like, there's also the possibility that she doesn't want to be cut off from Robin's kids. She has really bonded with them and likes Robin as well. So there's that complication, right? And I guess she could worry that even though her and Robin are friends, she and Robin are friends, well, what if Kody decides to demand that Robin not have contact with Mary? Then Mary would truly be alone. I've felt bad for Mary this whole time. She's just so alone, Christine and Janelle don't even want to talk to her. Christine said, "I don't even want to see you." And Mary and Janelle, I don't think have ever gotten along. I think they've actually actively not got along. Anyway, so there's that. To catch you up, there's been a number of episodes that I've watched. I've been taking notes. So let's see, where are we? Yeah. Mary says that she's a control freak because she needs to take care of herself because no one else will. So that was in reference to them disclosing that in the beginning of the marriages that Mary was mean and controlling and rigid and almost impossible to get along with, according to Janelle and Christine. And she says, well, I have to, yeah, am I a control freak? Yeah, because I need to be, I learned I had to take care of myself because no one else will. That's not the exact quote, but that was the sentiment. And that tells me that in her childhood, her upbringing, life taught her that if she didn't control things, if she wasn't in control, then bad things would happen to her, which makes me sad. Kody asked Janelle to reconcile, but he didn't really mean it. She says no, but Kody doesn't do anything to show that he cares. Janelle says that she thinks no one in the family has been to church in years, which was interesting because, they come from this AUB, right? And is it the AUB? It's something United Brethren. I'll just Google it. Sister Wives AUB. Apostolic United Brethren, meaning like apostles, I think. So, like evangelical. Anyway, so we know that they come from that, and that's the whole thing. That's the polygamy thing. And they've talked about how there's less adherence and less care about the dogma to differing degrees among each of the adults. Plenty of the kids are not, when it is brought up, it also seems like among the kids there's varying adherence to it, but the range seems to be more skewed towards not adhering to it. I get the impression, and I think I've heard that some of the kids have actually just entered into regular Mormonism. Anyway, let's see. Janelle said, yeah. So Janelle is like, yeah, I don't think because she doesn't know because she's not around everyone, but she was basically saying that according to her perception, she didn't think any of the adults and any of the kids by extension were actually going to church in years, which is interesting, right? Which would explain a few things. I was going to the bathroom and thinking, by the way, I've been dreaming about this show because I've been watching it so much. It's just, so one of the things I was thinking while I was going to the bathroom, I don't know why I'm telling you that, but I am, is that other, like the Plath family, the Plathville family, although I didn't watch beyond a couple seasons, I heard that it gets conflictual I saw the beginning of that, like the oldest boy and the parents, particularly the mom, were basically completely estranged by the time I got to that point where he's walking off in the driveway. And if things continue to go down that road, which I think I heard people intimating that it did, it makes me wonder if any family that, because they start off at season 1 in this cult or high control or very non-mainstream church and lifestyle. The Plath family was in a religious group that proposed homeschooling and rejection of the outside world and full control over your kids and having lots of kids, all the stuff that we saw. And in this one, it wasn't as far, because, the kids were going to regular school, but, the polygamy thing. Anyway, so it makes you wonder if those family configurations are doomed. And the only reason why they look good is because everyone is just faking it. And that's a tempting hypothesis, but I'm not, that's not at the top of my list, because I imagine that there are families, even this family, could, divorce happens and breakups happen and chaos happens and conflict happens in all families. I have plenty of experience with that, professionally and personally. So it's not like everything that's happening here is anything strange. It's actually quite mainstream and normal that divorce is happening and people are changing and conflict is happening. And anyway, so that's one question. The other question I have is, if you're on a reality TV show, are you doomed? Because the image that popped into my head, and of course I'm not the first to think this or say this, and I probably have said this before, but I don't. I just thought I'd talk about this. That of course the producers are trying to get the tea, and the audience is trying to get the tea, the behind the scenes or the juicy information. And so I had this vision of, at the end of the season, when they're doing the one-on-one interviews for those interstitials, and then of course for the kind of tell-all episodes, the producers are really hoping for some salacious information, right? And this is all speculative. I can't know what they think or hope or do, but we could imagine. And they either know, or it just happens naturally that when they're sitting down with each of the adults in this family and interviewing them, that the adults could sit down and plan on only revealing so much, but eventually you just start to get loose and relaxed. Other shows, we could say that they ply them with alcohol or something, but they don't drink, or at least they have. I wonder if actually some of them are starting to drink now that things are changing. Anyway, so they can't do that, but you can kind of break people down in a sense if you because the interviews that we see, these little interstitials, and of course the tell-alls, from my understanding, in order to save money, they'll film for like 12 hours in one day, because that way they only have to pay the crew so much, right? They only have to rent the equipment or use the equipment for that amount of time. So you can create a situation where it's kind of like an interrogation in a sense, and you start to just get more loose-tongued, or they might show you someone else, the way a detective might when you're trying to interrogate two suspects and you play them off of each other in different rooms, and they show, well, he said this, what do you think about that? And there's like, and then, or I heard him say this, how does that feel? And it's like, well, if he's going to say that, then I'm going to say this. And then, and those, the most salacious moments, right? The worst moments, or the most hurt moments, are on the show. And I'm guessing, I would put a lot of money down that they all watch the show in its entirety and pay a lot of attention to when their spouse is talking with them not in the room about you, and just how hurtful that would be and how it would escalate things artificially such that disaster is inevitable or more likely, And then you add in the fact that you have all the audience that has, in my observation, some really fucked up points of view. I mean, the kinds of stuff. I mean, there's a bell curve, but the in my anecdotal experience, the loudest voices and conversations and the most upvoted things I find to be, frankly, toxic things that are being said about everyone. I mean, there are people, just as an example, there could be someone that is pretty likable on the show, on any of these shows that I watch, and in the comment section or in the chat forum or whatever, the conversations online, someone will want to say something nice about them, and it's like out of 30 cast members, this one is like obviously not a problem to anyone, and the commenter will still have to say something like, "Look, I know that he's a toxic narcissist, but I do like the fact that he blah 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 blah." I mean, I'm exaggerating for effect, but a more common phrase is, "Well, I hate this person. We agree that we hate this person, but I just want to say that when you did that, that was good." And it's like, so even when they do good things, and of course it's socially constructed. It's not like each individual is doing this because they're choosing. They're doing it because the collective has decided these are the rules about how we talk about these people. And what I have found is, when I meet up with friends, friends of mine will watch 90 Day Fiancé, for example, and I will ask them what they think. And it's kind of a trip to do because, casually, most people watch the show casually, right? As they're drifting off into sleep at night or something, right? Whereas I'm just like laser focused and like taking notes and stuff. And it's just interesting to hear the lackadaisical, casual perspective. But anyway, even among those people, when they're just talking, and these are people I like and respect, there's sort of an agreement that you talk shit about them and everyone's toxic and everyone's a narcissist. And God forbid you ever say something nice about anybody unless you're saying they're a saint and he's an asshole, right? So I imagine that would take a toll. Imagine if everyone is just, like Mary, for example, if every time you go online and people are DMing you, and apparently they're opening those DMs and responding and stuff, that you're just hearing this message over and over again: Kody is a narcissist, Kody is gaslighting you, Kody is an asshole, you're an idiot, you're weak. We understand that would have an effect on. I mean, when I go through my dark moments with internet comments and emails and stuff, they're just talking about a take that I had with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial or something. They're not talking about my wife. They're not talking about really my life at all. I mean, sometimes they'd get personal, but not along those lines. And if my life was on display and I was a little insecure, I had question marks, and I just had this repetitive, brainwashy, one-sided narrative that's being beat into my head, I imagine that would have an effect too. So my thought on the, in the bathroom, very briefly was, does being on a reality TV show raise the risk of disaster happening? And I could see it, right? Can't we? We can see that. This is an ad by BetterHelp. And if you sign up, please use the link below because that really helps us out. So these days, when it comes to mental health, there's a lot of guidance and advice out there, right? From detoxes to cold plunges and other sorts of things like that. But how do you know what would work for you personally? In recent years, I've had to spend a lot of time debunking a lot of myths that clients have absorbed from TikTok and Facebook. So a well-trained ethical therapist can be a wonderful resource when it comes to sifting through all that information and developing a personalized treatment plan for you. Well, a good option to find a therapist is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. They have over 35,000 therapists with a wide variety of styles. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. So, talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Kirk. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
Doesn't mean I'm not mad at you for not giving me what we promised each other.
It's just so interesting, and I'll stop yammering, but it's so interesting to see each of the sister wives react differently to that moment where they're having a conversation indirectly about divorcing. You know, Christine and him, the way that Christine talked and the way that he would talk to her, you know, and Janelle and him, and now her and him, it's just consistent with past behavior, and it fits with the profile. For Mary, it's almost like she's comfortable in a place of neglect while she pines for him, and doesn't feel the humiliate. You know, other people like Christine would feel humiliated being in Mary's shoes. Mary has been saying to the camera for years now, "I'm waiting, and I want him to." I mean, literally, I'm waiting, and I would be happy if he would have sex with me. I mean, that's not what she's saying directly, and I'm not making fun of her. It's just the vibe of what she's been saying, and she's doing that now. I'm just like the demeanor is that of someone who has a crush, and she might still have a crush on him. You know, that happens. Janelle has a different way. You know, she will remind us and herself that in spite of it all, she still is attracted to him and still has affection for him. I think that might be dwindling, but you know, you can have both things. It's just interesting to see each of their reaction. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others, because we all deserve it. We really, really do.